It's 2021, and there are so many awesome cameras on the market now with a range of form factors, sensor sizes, and target users. And one type of camera we still sell plenty of are camcorders. But why? Well, in this video, we're going to be looking at Canon's new XF605 and why camcorders like this might still be a relevant choice in 2021. The XF605 is Canon's newest camera in their 4K XF range, aimed at replacing the XF705. We had the XF605 from Canon for a couple of days for us to put it through its paces. During that time we managed to go down to mine and Joe's hometown and film some of the local wind and kite surfers at the beach. We also took the Canon C70 to shoot the BTS to see how well it matched with the XF605. I'll be referencing this shoot throughout the video, and we'll make sure we pepper our thoughts and footage throughout the video. Right, let's start off looking at the physical design of the XF605. Camcorders are designed to get rolling fast just after they've been pulled out of the bag, and the XF605 is no different, as it's ready to shoot in just 3.5 seconds. Everything you need is built onto the camera and it's ready to go as soon as you pull it out of the bag. Whereas with hybrid cameras and some interchangeable lens camcorders, it will require more accessories attached onto the camera to achieve the same things as the 605. This adds more things that can go wrong, increases time checking everything is rigged properly, and can also add cost. In comparison to the XF705, the 605 is a good amount smaller and nearly 700 grams lighter, which is really great. It's a really nice form factor, and while out shooting, it was easy to shoot in a range of different angles and positions. Camcorders are designed for one thing, and that's capturing video. So its entire design is around making it easier and faster to control and operate the camera for this. And the XF605 is no different. Just look at the side of the camera. There's so many buttons and switches, it's packed full of tactile controls. You have control of the internal ND filters, a push AF/MF button, a switch for manual or autofocus, manual or auto iris, a zoom toggle switch, 4 customizable buttons, a switch for a fully auto exposure mode, auto gain mode, and auto white balance modes. You then have a menu button, another 3 custom function buttons, and an infrared switch. Along the bottom, you have a push button for auto iris, 2 3-stage switches for ISO or gain, white balance with a white balance button next to it, and you then have a shutter switch and a lock switch to lock all the buttons on the side. You then have all the audio controls and dual SD card slot, all on just that one side. It's pretty condensely packed, but once you get used to where everything is, it's just so nice to operate. You also can see little bumps and nooks on the camera, and this is so you can tell where you are when you're not looking at the side of the camera, if it's on your shoulder for example. So again, once you get used to the layout and used to what bumps are where, you can just operate the camera really quickly. The grip on the right hand side is really nice. You have a zoom rocker as well as a nice record button at the back with a joystick to control the menu or focus points. On the top of the camera you have a built-in handle which is really great ergonomically and features a range of controls which makes it really fast to operate if you're using the top handle. The top monitor is also nicely positioned and it's a good size with a nice sturdy hinge. I wish the C70's hinge was like this. It also has an EVF on the back which we used occasionally, but it wasn't the best experience. It feels quite small and far away from your eye. It's also quite dark out of the box, so we immediately changed the luminance to high instead of the default setting. The 605 uses the same BPA style battery that Canon's modern C-series cameras use, meaning that there are already a few good third-party options available and battery run times are pretty awesome. We only had to really swap batteries once while out filming. It can also be powered via the included DC power supply for extra long run times. As with a lot of camcorders, the 605 has a range of auto modes. You can go full auto exposure or choose to only have one part of your exposure adjusted automatically. This can make cameras like this great to learn on for students, as you can slowly move away to fully manual. It will also make exposing while running and gunning faster for people wanting to focus more on what's happening in front of them and their frame instead of exposure. The 605 features internal optical NDs. This consists of a clear, quarter, 1/16 and 1/64. Having this internally is fantastic, as it means no matter what conditions you are in, you'll be able to quickly change your ND to get your exposure spot on. It's such a pain to have ND filters on the front of your lens on cameras designed for run and gun. So this is just another feature that makes the camera much better and faster to operate in these productions. The dual SD card slot at the back of the camera has a range of recording combinations which are quite common across Canon's cameras now. Proxies could be really handy for fast turnaround productions, as well as the ability to record XFAVC to one card and MP4 to another. There is also the status menu, which is quite handy. This brings up several pages worth of key information which you can still bring up and navigate while recording. This could be handy if you want to keep rolling but just want to double check your settings are 100% correct, or if you're adjusting a second camera to match the settings of the camera already rolling. Camcorders will commonly feature smaller sensors than other cameras on the market, and the 605 is no different. It features a 1-inch CMOS sensor which is similar to the one found in the XF705, and is powered by Canon's Digic DV7 processing platform. There are several pros that this brings, as well as a few cons. Pros being the ability to keep the camera smaller, lighter and easier to cool, which also improves record times and reliability. We will touch on the lens in more detail in a bit, but the smaller sensor size allows for the design of a smaller, more versatile zoom than a larger sensor would allow. It also keeps costs down, so other improvements or features can be implemented and costs don't get crazy. When it comes to downsides, you have stuff such as the ability to get shadow depth of field at wider focal lengths and the overall sensor performance. The sensor in the 605 performs nicely at its base sensitivity. However, as soon as you start pumping up the gain, your image will degrade pretty quickly. The 605 also features a high sensitivity mode, and this feature lets users shoot at a sensitivity that is one step brighter than normal. You can do this using an assignable button, but bear in mind there is a lot of noise in this mode. It would be awesome to see a camcorder like this feature a DGO sensor like that found in the C70 or C300 Mark III. It wouldn't need to be the same size, but that sensor is awesome, and a smaller sensor like this with that tech would be great to see. Unfortunately, the 605 does suffer from some pretty heavy rolling shutter, which is a shame given its sensor size. I would have hoped performance would have been better here. This is especially noticeable when shooting at the longer focal lengths. The 605 also features an inbuilt infrared function, which will allow you to record some unique footage in a pinch by just flipping the switch on the side of the body. The XF605 features a range of formats to shoot in. You have XFAVC, which is H.264 and can be shot using intra or long GOP compression in 4210-bit. You can also shoot in XFAVC proxy, as well as MP4 and MP4 proxy. As with other Canon cameras, it features a range of recording modes: slow and fast, with and without audio, pre-recording, frame recordings, and interval recording. This is really great to have in case you have an idea while out shooting that you may need one of these functions for. The lens on the XF605, like many other camcorders, is a fixed lens, and it's aimed to be a general purpose zoom for a range of applications. It has 3 rings, one for zoom, one for focus, and one for controlling your iris. One thing I wish you could change in the menu is the direction of the iris control. The lens features an 8.3 to 124.5mm 15x optical zoom, which while in its 4K mode gives you a full frame equivalent focal range of 25.5mm to 382.5mm, and one in full HD you can get up to 765mm. That's an incredible amount of range to have in such a small package. And without the lens moving externally, this is a big reason why smaller sensor sizes are common with camcorders, so you can have a large range zoom that aren't absolutely massive. It has a variable aperture of f2.8 at the wide end all the way to f4.5 at the tele end. It would have been better if this was maybe a touch faster at the wider end. You can control the zoom in 3 different ways: via the rocker on the side grip, the small rocker on the top handle, or by using the lens's zoom ring. You can toggle between this on the side of the camera by using the switch on the bottom here. As with Canon's previous camcorders, you can also get a 1.5x teleconverter and 0.8x wide angle attachment. This will be really handy if you need a little bit extra on the reach or want to get a little bit wider in a cramped shooting space. Just make sure to toggle these in the menu if you do end up using one with the camera. The XF605 features some amazing stabilization. It was honestly one of the most shocking things about using this camera out and about. Camera features 3 different modes: standard, dynamic and powered. Standard is just using the optical stabilization built into the lens. Dynamic uses both the optical stabilization as well as electronic based stabilization, and this performs incredibly well. And lastly, you have powered IS, which has been designed to be toggled at the super telephoto end of the zoom, and this is why there's a button on the side of the camera for it. This can look a little bit odd when not at the tele end, and does seem to jump around a bit when you are zoomed in, but otherwise it's pretty rock solid. The lens on the XF605 is actually pretty parfocal. We shot a zoom on our chart using the camera with AF on and MF with AF assist. We can see focus shift a little when AF is enabled, but with AF off, the lens holds focus really well. The XF605 features Canon's excellent dual pixel autofocus. However, the 605 is the first XF camera to feature Canon's EOS ITR AFX tech, which means the addition of eye tracking and head tracking. This system works really well and is a seriously great addition to a camera with this form factor. You can control several different autofocus parameters as you can on other Canon cameras featuring the same AF system. We tested it in several different scenarios and it does a good job. Even when in some more challenging scenarios, the tracking was really good. You can also use the touchscreen to touch to focus and track, which could be handy. The XF605 features a range of professional inputs and outputs, and this is an area where camcorders really shine. The 605 features a 12G SDI output, full-size HDMI output, USB-A and USB-C ports, a timecode BNC, Genlock BNC, a LANC, an RS422, Ethernet, two full-size XLR audio inputs, a 3.5mm mic input, a 3.5mm headphone output, and a multi-function shoe. This is a really great set of inputs and outputs that cover pretty much everything a working professional may need on a range of different productions. There are several different ways to connect the camera to the internet for IP streaming, which when paired with its strong control functions could make it a really great camera for live streaming. You can also record on camera in XFAVC or MP4 while streaming, and streaming from the camera is limited to H.264 though. If, however, you wanted to sit within a larger live production, having RS422 for controlling the camera remotely and SDI for outputting your image could make it a really great camera to put in a unique position where human operation is not possible. Canon have also released a new content transfer mobile iPhone app, which looks to add some really interesting features when it comes to workflow. We didn't get a chance to fully test this, but it looks like it could be a really good addition to Canon's cameras, and I'm interested to test it even further when I can. We shot a bunch of BTS with the C70 while we were out shooting with the 605, as well as some more controlled tests back at our studio, and unsurprisingly, they do match pretty well. The 605 features a great range of different CP profiles, which will allow you to shoot in several different gamma and gamuts. You have all your regular BT709 profiles, which include wide DR, which I really like. You can also shoot in HLG, PQ, EOS Standard and Neutral, as well as Canon Log 3. C-Log 3 and lots of these other profiles are present in pretty much every modern cinema EOS camera, so it means you can shoot in these and easily match different cameras together. Even straight out of camera, the wide DR looks incredibly close in colour between the two, which is really great to see. You can also import your own LUTs, and this is burnt into the image you're recording, but this could be handy if you want to use a LUT across several different cameras and not have to worry about applying one to your footage in post. So one thing you may be thinking is, why would someone buy this over the C70? Well, the XF605 is £3,599 excluding VAT, and the C70 is £3,999 excluding VAT. So they are incredibly close in price, though you will need to get a lens to get the C70 shooting. Even if you grab one of Canon's more affordable RF mount zooms, getting the equivalent range will cost you at least another £500. Really, the big difference between the two is their sensors. A good way to think of the C70 and other interchangeable lens video cameras like it is that they are essentially hybrids of camcorders and mirrorless DSLR cameras. However, the C70 does have some compromises when it comes to the usability, inputs and outputs, and still needs some accessories to get to the same point as the XF605. The build isn't quite as nice. It has a weird layout on the bottom for tripod mounting, so it requires a base plate to fix this. It requires a mini XLR to XLR adapter to use the XLR inputs on the body. It doesn't have some of the professional inputs and outputs the 605 does. It has reduced connectivity, doesn't have a viewfinder, doesn't have as good a stabilization system, and arguably has a slightly worse button layout. The pros of the C70 though are the improved image quality, increased dynamic range, low light performance, range of extra log profiles for matching with higher end cinema cameras, smaller footprint, the ability to achieve shallower depth of fields at wider field of views, and the fact you can put a huge range of lenses on the front of it which can completely change the look of your camera. They are both great cameras, and which one is good for you will depend on what you need from your camera and what priorities you have. If you want some more tailored advice, give us a call or email via the details in the description below. So who has Canon aimed the XF605 at? Well, I think there are a few key production types that would benefit from the feature set of the 605. First off, documentary and run and gun filmmakers. When capturing scenarios that may not happen again on a budget with a small crew, you want something rock solid that will roll for ages on small batteries, onto cheap and decent media, reliably and easily, and the XF605 can do just that. It also has a great small form factor with everything you may need for a massive range of shooting conditions. I can see it also being great for news gathering and studio productions, as it features a range of functions that will fit straight into their workflow, has great audio input options, professional connections and industry standard recording formats. I can see it also fitting into live productions such as a house of worship live setup where you may be using other Canon C series cameras but want the extra reach, remote control, output capabilities and IP streaming functionality that the 605 features. These are only a selection of how we can see it fitting into a few different productions. Let us know how you would like to use it down in the comments below. All in all, Canon XF605 is a fantastic new addition to the XF line. It's essentially an XF705 squeezed into a smaller body with new features added and at a more affordable price point. Whether a fixed lens camera is for you will be down to your shooting style and production, but the XF605 looks to be a very compelling option at the sub £4,000 price point. Let us know what you think of the Canon XF605 down in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.